Greetings everyone. I just wanted to show you a little bit about Visio and to explain the project in a little bit more detail. I finally have a tool to work with. It's called Adobe Captivate. I have my Visio open and it is a newer version. It's connected directly with iCloud, which is fine, or the cloud, Microsoft Cloud. When you first open Visio, it gives you templates to work with. Now I want two diagrams. I said one was a basic network topology and the other one was an Active Directory design. So if you see, you can see one that says basic network design. So I am going to go ahead and choose that one to show you the double click it, and what it does is it opens up with a blank piece of paper, and on the left side you'll see different elements. And what I can actually do with this is actually create a network. The other thing I can do is you should have more shapes, or you should have something that says stencils at the top, and I can actually choose, I actually want some more detailed network diagram. So I'm going to choose detailed network diagram, and it's going to add some additional templates for me. So you can keep adding different ones here. Network locations, let's do that one. See, that shows you a little bit more. Go under network, and I'm going to choose we'll get the Active Directory in just a second. Network symbols. There we go. Okay, so what we actually have here then is a variety of different templates, and you can actually see I have network peripherals. So there's a mainframe, there's a server. What I mean about your network, everybody is given a organizational chart, and I want you to draw what you think would be a workable network based on the information that's provided. I don't expect it to be perfect, but I do, believe that you can go ahead and create something from it. So let's say mine was Asgard and it said I had 2 sites. Well, typically in 2 sites we're going to put 2 computers. I mean, these are two servers. So I put 2 servers. Plus at the top I can use the text box right here and actually tell you what I'm doing. Asgard, spelled wrong. Still spelled wrong. Alright, asgard.com. You can change the size of that to 18 points, that's fine. And when I said that you need as much detail as possible, I'm going to say that I've got 2 network locations, and we've got a cloud because they're joined together. But I want you to give me as much detail as you can about these servers. So I'm going to show you what I want. I want you to put a text box right next to the server, and you're going to have multiple servers on each site depending on what you're doing. And then you're going to name the server. Now when we name servers, we can name it whatever we want, but it's recommended that you give it a name that's not going to give away what it does. So if this is my domain controller, I'm not going to call it DC1. That just shows a hacker that, hey, look, there's DC1. So I'm going to go ahead and name this Thor, and that's the name of the server. And then I want an IP address because I'm going to set up my own network, and I'm going to say I'm using a Class C. And then I want you to give me the subnet mask. This is going to be your template that you are going to use to create certain servers once I review your document. And then I want you to tell me what roles it's going to be on here. Active Directory. DC. Okay, so you need a name, IP address, subnet mask, and you need to tell me what it is. We also can interconnect these devices together. So we use the connection tool, and you can just actually just go from one to another, and don't worry about the fact that if it doesn't look like it's like perfectly and they're connected together, it's fine. The idea is that the fact that you're going through the cloud and there we go. And it looks like they're both together. I know what this looks like, so it's fine. I know that you're going through the cloud to get to each other. It's fine. So you have, besides, you can also change the way your arrow looks. I kind of like the new one coming to the cloud. It's got all different types of colors and stuff. So I can actually go ahead and include, and of course I've forgotten some devices going through here, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And honestly, the best way to learn Visio is just by playing with it. So you need to kind of work with it and play with it. And there's my firewalls, there's my router, and I want to use network symbols instead because these are the ones that I like. Okay, so there's a router, and it's huge. So I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Okay, and then we need a switch. Switch, 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 switch. And it's huge. So when you do your network topology, I want you to be as detailed as possible. And if you resize something, you can actually copy it and paste it, and it'll be resized the same way. So the idea is that these switches now get connected to, or the servers get connected to the switch. And the switch gets connected to the router. And the router is connected to the, and you actually might have two routers, but for right now I'm just going to do the one. Say this is one site. Okay, so we'd actually have two routers coming to the cloud, and that's how they connect to each other. But the idea is to put out all the devices that you need for your network topology. So I'm going to need another computer here because many of you are going to have, you know, think about the roles and what you've done so far. And you want to make sure, I'm still looking for it, you've got all the roles covered. Most networks are going to need an Active Directory domain, and you're also going to need a file and print server, and you are also going to need, you know, you might have a web server, you might have an email server. And it doesn't matter. I'm just saying that we're using these to signify, you know, how our network is set up. So if I do connector tool and go from this one to there, this one to there. All right. Now the key is for this one, as I said, is to make sure you have a text box on each of them and explaining exactly what it is that they're going to do. So maybe this is going to be the this one is Odin, and you give the IP address, and Odin is a file server. So I'm going to give you feedback, which you'll get back by Wednesday, of what I think about your active, you know, your designs. So that's the first one I need, you know, to give you a basic idea. Now the great thing about it, at the bottom here, you'll see pages. You can actually rename them, and I can rename it as topology. And then I can go ahead and create a new one. So I can insert a new page. So I'm going to call this one Active Directory. So I still have topology down here, and I have Active Directory, so they can be one diagram. Now this one is going to be very similar to what I showed you originally. Now you can, of course, do it whatever way you want. The best way to do it is to look online and do a Google search for images. If you go up there and say in Active Directory, you're going to see a lot of different people's design under images on how they designed it. Here's the truth though, you do not walk into a network where they do not have this documented. So the topology and the Active Directory design are two documents that we use. So I'm going to change my network, and I want to look at Active Directory sites and services, or Active Directory objects. And there's everything I used before. So we start with our domain. We put our domain out, and it's tiny. It's the only thing that doesn't make any sense, because I need to make it bigger. If you double click, you can type in as guard.com, and I'm going to make it bigger because it's just too tiny. Probably spelled it differently than the first part, but that's all right. So now what I can do is you start with the organizational units. Everybody has gotten themselves a chart and pretty much can figure out what your OUs are going to look like. So you push your OUs out here, and everybody's going to be different because everybody's got a different plan. But you can double click it, and let's say one of the ones that I saw that I had is sales. And the great thing about it is I have everything for you. Oops. Marketing, IT, and these are just really my... Alright, then what you can do is, and I probably wouldn't do more than 12 or 10, it's fine. Once you actually see it, yeah, it's perfect. Alright, so then what you do then is you add your users, and I have your users sitting there. Now one thing I would suggest that you do though is you can put the user if you want to put the full name, but you can't just put user. If I've got all your user, and let's say one of my users is Sam Smith, I want you to type out Sam Smith. I need this to be as detailed as possible. Now here's the thing, if it's not, it's okay, but typically what happens is this document is what I want you to use then when I say, okay, we're going to use NetLab and I want you to build X, Y, and Z. So for this week coming up, I am going to be sending back these diagrams and asking you to make changes as soon as you do next week. Okay, not this coming Monday, but the next week after that, week 13 I think, I'm going to have you start building your network. Now you're not going to be building all of them, but I will be taking a section of them and saying, I want you to build this. You will be building out your entire Active Directory. However, as far as the computers, you'll be building something different. Okay, so then once you're finished with that, then you can go ahead and do a group. We create groups so we can put all of our users in our groups. So, and the other thing is, just keep in mind, if you've got a manager that's in the HR, because you've got a director of HR, they're not going to go in the same OU typically. You're going to create a separate OU called managers, because think about it. We give rights to what they need. Now, a manager is going to have more rights than somebody who's just working in HR. So you want to put a separate group that allows them to go ahead and yeah, just going to use yeah, you're going to make sure you get the managers are going to have extra rights. You might have an executive group too, but you can actually see that we add all these things together, and yes, we do connect them together. All right, so we do either use the directory connector or we can use this connector, but you do kind of want them in order. Now these I usually just put an arrow to say that they're in this group, but you do want to make sure that they're connected together. Okay, so at least the OU folders. I don't really care about these. I usually just put an arrow in between here to say, hey, these users are going into here. See, I can actually, using the connector tool, just create a user. I can put all my users and say, yeah, this is my group I'm putting these users into. So you have to be as, you can be as creative as you want on this. Here's the other thing is just make this as professional as possible. If you knew you were responsible for documenting the network, so when somebody new came in, you want to know exactly what is it going to look like and how, is it going to be readable by them in order to, understand what the network looks like. So that gives you a brief idea. Now I am using a different version than most of you, so you have to kind of play with it a little bit, but and I will give you some feedback on it this week.